Hello, and welcome to Things We Learned This Week, a show about research, facts, and combating the apparent human need to make shit up. I'm your co-host, Jacob Morrow.
And I'm your other co-host, Jordan Williams.
Alright, let's not bullshit around. Let's get right into it. Maybe we should bullshit around for a little bit.
Yeah. We can't just go straight into the totally concrete facts that we have prepared today and didn't totally change last minute. Hey, but I got my sources in order this week.
Sweet! So now we're not going to have to just tell people to go look up the word.
Yeah.
So, like,
got anything small that you learned this week by chance, Mr. Morrow?
Well, I mean, I started college, which is quite a bit.
Oh,
kind of learning.
Yeah, finally.
It's
finally
been
out of the house.
Just to get rid of the bullshit around dating the episode. This is like my second week of college, third, and I just got my grade back from the first paper that I've ever written for college, and it was a 97, so I can't really complain.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was okay. I think I repressed all the...
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think I just repressed all the grades I got the first 2 weeks of college.
I don't blame you. Yeah, the dude told me that, like, on, like, the grading description thing told me that, that I did everything fine except my, sources weren't fantastic. And I was like, not even that my sources were bad, but that I didn't cite my sources correctly because never taught me how to.
Censor that.
I will censor it. But
sounds like our show.
Yeah. Did you learn anything small this week?
Well, I started my second year of college. Still just as interesting as ever. I realized that half of my friends transferred. I think my school only had a 43% retention rate.
God, why do you think it was so bad?
See, I think the problem was, for whatever reason, we just got a lot more questionable sources, I guess.
Okay.
That came last year. Like, it was a lot of people that ended up dropping out because they didn't like dealing with authority or something. I don't know.
Okay. Like some of those sport boys that had to be removed from school for stealing your Xbox.
Yeah. Well, they stole my... Okay, so some highlights from last year. My PlayStation 4 got stolen when I was in the hospital.
Oh, it was your PlayStation? Shit, sorry.
Yeah, my PlayStation got stolen, and I almost lost all the progress I had made on Horizon Zero Dawn. And
you look like you were about to pass
very
out.
Sad boy. I was such a sad boy.
When you found out that it kept when you were at my house playing Horizon, you were so happy.
Yeah, it was like I was seeing my first child again after I thought he died in the war.
There were actual tears in your eyes.
I was so happy. You don't understand how much I love that game, Jacob. I spent so many painstaking hours in Ultra Hard Plus.
You put a lot of time into that game. That's what I'm probably going to end up doing with Witcher. I just bought Witcher 3. And I'm liking it so far. I might put in that amount of time in it.
Well, if you like Witcher, then I think you're going to like Cyberpunk the game, right?
God, Cyberpunk 2049? 2077?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that looks
2077,
so good.
I think.
Oh, I'm so pumped for that. Oh. But okay.
Alrighty, you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Get into this shit? Alright. So, I don't know if we revealed what topics were last week. So...
let's just open up one by one.
Let's open up one by one. So, alright. So... my topic this week is kind of professional wrestling as a whole. I have never actually, up until this point, I knew of professional wrestling the same way that anyone else does, kind of as, fake and garbage, is the way that my dad did. Well, because my dad had a friend named Jay, who absolutely loves pro wrestling, to the point where he
sounds like a guy named Jay.
Yeah. And he's a really good guy. He was my boss at one point. I worked at a theater that he worked at. And he absolutely loves pro wrestling because for him it's a lot like comics. And he really loves comics. So it's just kind of seeing that up on a stage. And I kind of liked that idea of comic book storylines but told in person. And
Mm-hmm.
so I watched a couple episodes of Raw, and I was like, hey, this isn't bad. I'm gonna do an episode on this because it's kind of cool. So
I just had a really weird image of Hulk Hogan in Superman spandex, and
I
I'm not
mean,
sure if I can go back from this.
who is the pro wrestler that was in that's in the Spider-Man movie, in the first Spider-Man? That was
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember.
oh gosh, I can't remember what his name was. Oh, he was a real pro wrestler though. I can't remember what his name was. Ah well. But anyway, so to begin, like wrestling as a means of like combat is obviously like old as hell. You know,
Uh-huh.
like it's the main way that like cave people would have beat the shit out of each other for food and water.
Yeah, and it was a custom back then to only do so naked to prove your superiority.
And covered in oil so that you would be completely glistening and stuff. Just because it looked so good for the women of the tribe. And for the men of the tribe. And for the other people of
But
the tribe. And for the polar bears.
especially the polar bears.
Especially the polar bears. But yeah, so it only makes sense that like once things got civilized, it would become less of a means of fighting people and more of a means of like a sport. So you'd go and you'd train to become a wrestler. So obviously, like the wrestling back then is super different from modern wrestling in the way that it's brutal and you actually hurt people. So like
Mm-hmm.
in the ancient Olympic Greek, like the Greeks, right? You start to see it shift toward being a little more of a clean sport. So they banned like punching, biting, scratching, eye gouging, but everything
Mm-hmm.
else was entirely legal. Like it was really, really easy to get hurt very badly and take someone out of it. Now it
Well,
was
yeah.
still
What do you expect when you get to two of the strongest men in Greece in a ring and tell each other to push each other out of the ring?
now there is actually like I have read some research that actually it was a lot like now. So like these wrestlers would have had handlers, like the same way that gladiators did in Rome. So they would have had dudes that like told them what to go and like helped train them. But other than that, and and like it was an investment, right? Like you put money into making sure this dude was beefy.
Wait. Okay, so it was like how Rocky had that old guy over his shoulder all the
It,
way back then?
it wouldn't have been like someone standing there in the ring with them, but it would have been someone who would have helped train them and would have helped them become big. A lot like how gladiators were. Yeah,
Oh.
it's kind of cool. So yeah, but less like a boxing coach and more of just like someone who trains someone. But
Okay.
so you don't really see a lot in common with wrestling until the 1830s in Europe, like specifically in France, where circuses started having their strong men challenge audience members to try to pin them.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so you'd have
Okay,
Go ahead.
that sounds like a dope ass circus. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
Obviously, the problem with it was like you could potentially hurt someone badly.
Yeah, local circus canceled because 3 died trying to wrestle the main event.
Yeah, because Hugo picked them up and spiked them through the floor. But yeah, so you start to see like these carnies who like run these shows begin to put rules in place. Specifically, one guy named Jean Exproyat was the first dude to like make a set of rules saying that you could only do like lifts and moves that were above the waist. So you couldn't go after legs or crotch or feet. You had to
Mm.
specifically work above the waist to keep it clean and to make sure that no one got hurt. Obviously, this was popular as hell, like you were saying. Like, this seems dope. So it spread pretty quickly to the US and the UK, who were pretty quick to, get rid of the rules against leg holds because it adds a lot more variation and makes it a lot cooler. So
Mm-hmm.
the US, though, is really where you start to see circuses lean away from saying, hey, Farmer Brown, come wrestle this dude, and instead say, hey, other circus, bring your strong man, and him and Hugo are going to fight for audience
Oh.
enjoyment. So they would start like setting up these fights and putting up flyers saying, hey, Strongman Joe and Beefcake Brian are going to come together and they're going to beat the crap out of each other.
So is this about the time that we start to see like the SmackDown Family Fun Time? It starts to have their main event wrestle the Raw Funplex Community Circus or
I mean, somewhere probably around there. Specifically, and I think what you're getting at is like, this is when they started to create characters for themselves. They would start to dress up and give gimmicks. So you would have dudes who like dressed up as farmers, and you would have dudes that dressed up, their cultural dress.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, at the time, people were pretty racist, and so these would typically be portrayed as the bad guy. And the American quote-unquote person would be portrayed as the good guy, which sucks pretty hard. But you still... go ahead.
Just a quick question. So, in this, like, when the character started to come out, did we see, I guess, early women wrestlers in this? Like, there was the... who was it? The gunslinger for Buffalo Bill. What's her name?
Annie.
Annie,
right? Shoot, I can't remember what her
Annie Shoot.
Annie Shoot. Annie Shoot. Good old Annie Shoot. I can't remember what her is it her last name, or does she have like
Annie Oakley?
Annie Oakley. There you go. Thank you.
So is it like Annie Oakley of the wrestling world?
You kind of don't see those. Is what the problem is you don't see it until a little bit later. And I'm going to do a whole episode on women's wrestling, because women's wrestling kicks so much ass. And that's where you really see the development, like, from this original type of wrestling all the way into what it is today, being like a complete on its own, like, storytelling medium, instead of just it being a contest. That is really where that developed, is in women's wrestling, at least for like American mainstream wrestling. So
I'm really sad that we can't see like a Rosie the Riveter going up against a archaic what's his name? Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yes. And that's what sucks, even up until like recent years, where they wouldn't let women wrestle against men. And specifically, they would have the women lose because, the WWE's kind of sucked in that range. We'll get there. Mm-hmm. We're going to get there when I do the women's episode. It's going to be great.
Okay.
American wrestling became super popular to the point where it almost matched baseball in popularity. Like,
wait, really?
Up until the 1920s, it was pretty close to being the American sport. But in the 1920s, people started to complain about the matches being staged, as though like they couldn't see that it was theater. Like, that's all it was. It was an arena style stage, and they had people come in and they told a story. In an attempt to bring fans back, promoters and bookers began like trying out even more dramatic storytelling. Like, they would use referees to like be like an outside godlike figure, or even like in the ring as someone who like would go against a wrestler to add even more conflict. And they would use time limits to add even more of like you have to pin someone by this time effect. Another thing that they added was tag team matches to bring even more good guys and bad guys in.
All right.
Because why you can bring in even more fans if you bring in two people that people are a fan of. But okay. So eventually these separate wrestling groups would come together and form the NWA, which was the National Wrestling Association, as a way to like share talent and make the business profit. After World War II, the NWA split up into a bunch of separate regional groups, and this was until the owner of the Northeast Federation, which came to be called the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, or WWWF, decided he was just going to take over the whole thing. So he pretty much demolished all of the other groups by booking fights in that like group's area, like stealing their wrestlers by giving them more money, outbidding them for TV contracts, and just taking them over bit by bit until he took over most of them and renamed it to the World Wrestling Federation, since WWF is a lot easier to say than WWWF. It's a whole W less. So the WWF continued to be like the biggest wrestling organization in the world. It was kind of tied with other ones at some points, like one like is called the Extreme Championship Wrestling and World Championship Wrestling. The latter one, World Championship Wrestling, gave the WWF for a run for its money a little bit during like 2000, like the 2000s back to 1998. when it began like beating it for ticket sales and TV views until the WWF came back to prominence in 2001.
Alrighty.
In 2002, the WWF was sued by the World Wildlife Fund.
Wait,
and it had to change. It had to change its name to the WWE, the World Wrestling Entertainment.
The one fight the wrestlers couldn't win.
Against the animals. No one can beat PETA. No one.
So, was there like an exhibition match for the name? Like, did they just like shove a bear in the ring?
They just threw a bear in the ring, and Hulk Hogan had to beat it up, and that's why Hulk Hogan's dead.
Wait, Hulk
that's
Hogan
why you don't
died?
see him anymore. Not because he's a racist or anything.
Uh...
He is! He's a racist, and he sucks. But, yeah. So the WWE continues today to be the biggest pro wrestling league in the world, although in the age of the internet, other leagues also vie for this position, seeing as they can put their stuff up online and get views that way. Specifically federations coming from Japan and Mexico. So you see a lot of like different people who like different styles of wrestling, like lucha. And lucha is amazing. And I want to do another like episode on its own for lucha, because I love lucha.
Don't forget, Los Tiburon was the one reason I started playing Dungeons & Dragons in the first place, Jacob.
Would you like to explain to the audience who that is?
For those of you who don't know, Los Tiburon is a story that showed up on 4chan before it got super, super weird. It was just like, I saw a little snipping of a story that somebody posted. And it is about I believe it's an orc monk who goes around pinning things as his entire thing for his Dungeons & Dragons campaign. When he gets money, he buys himself a mask, and he pins everything, limited but not, or equal to but not limited by, a bear.
And then I thought he did a dragon.
Yeah, no, that was the end of the story. So he fights a water dragon, and he wants to try to wrestle the dragon, forgets the dragon has wings, and as he's trying to pin this dragon that's like 10 times his size, the dragon starts flying straight up in the air. And so Los Tiburon decides he wants to pin the dragon, i.e. pin his wings behind his back so he can't fly anymore. Rolls a natural 20, pins the dragon's wings behind his back, they go plummeting to the ground, and survives with -4 hit points. And that was the story of how Los Tiburon hit level 3.
And that was the only good story 4chan has ever made. Well, I mean, honestly, like, I wish that was the only thing that was on the website, and that then it got shut down and taken off of it.
But I don't even know the extent of what 4chan's gone to now.
I don't want to know the extent to which that awful website is.
All right. Anyway,
but yeah. So in the future, expect episodes on lucha and episodes on women's wrestling. I also, since in the world of wrestling, it's so old, there are a lot of words in it, like lingo that is developed. So I'm gonna ask you some names, words, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna see if you know what they are.
All right, I got this. All
right, so what is a baby face?
A baby face is I'm gonna guess that it's when a wrestler has just been insulted and he has to act aghast in front of the audience.
It is actually the name for the good guy. So, like you were like Stone Cold Steve Austin was both like a face and a heel. And so, what is a heel? I kind of gave you that.
The bottom of the foot.
It's the bad guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my next guess.
Oh, here's the good one. What is a kayfabe? Or what is the kayfabe?
The kayfabe is the WWWS rendition of K-pop, where they brought in dancers for the halftime show or wrestling match.
Kiss, kiss, fall in love. I wish that's what it was.
After the show, we're gonna have a discussion on why you know what that is. Anyway.
It's a vine.
Okay.
But no, the kayfabe is like the fiction, like the world fiction in which like the match takes place. So like that'll be like the world in which this dude is a like 4-time world champion, and he's just lost his belt.
Okay.
What is... Oh, I have to find this one. This one was so good. What is a foreign object?
A foreign object is when they get someone from another country to start wrestling for them, like when they bring in Rey Mysterio to fight John Cena.
I mean, that's not bad. That is actually oh shoot. What was the word?
You said foreign object?
A foreign object. It is a weapon that someone brings in. So like
a
wrestler will bring
that's
in
a good point.
They'll bring in a knife or they'll bring in a chair. That's a foreign object.
Wait, hold up, back up. Knife?
Oh yeah. Oh, where's that one? Oh shoot. Hold on, I need to find that one. Yeah, it's
I was about to say I never saw. I don't remember. I don't remember Batista bringing in a fucking machete to a wrestling match.
So blading is the act of like taking a small knife or a little thing, and after you get hit, right, you will take it, and while you're like facing away from the audience, you'll cut yourself a little bit so that you're bleeding, so that it looks like you just took like a way worse hit than you did.
Oh fuck! So it's not like fake blood or anything hidden in that.
No.
So,
like you
actually
you cut yourself just a little bit.
Wow, wrestling's actually badass.
Wrestling's kind of badass.
Okay.
All right, last one. What is a ref bump?
Is that when both people get pissed at the ref and just decide to, for whatever reason, start beating the piss out of the official who's in the circle with them?
You actually got it. It's any scenario where the ref is taken out of the match, like he's knocked out.
Okay, because I remember some of the limited knowledge I have about wrestling is I had the SmackDown versus Raw, I think 2008 game.
Oh yes, I know this. Yes.
And I remember me and my buddies back in, I think I was still in elementary school at the time. One of our favorite pastimes was just to gang up on the ref until the time ran out in our matches.
The poor guy.
Funny enough, that was the only game I ever got taken away from me in my elementary career.
Oh god.
Because as I was playing through the campaign as my favorite wrestler, The Undertaker, who I understand is apparently, he just doesn't age.
No.
Like, he's 6'9" and like he hasn't aged a day from what I've seen online. Anyway,
he's actually like in the kayfabe, he's dead.
Oh,
he's an undead monster.
Okay, makes sense.
It's either him.
Anyway,
wait, I'm pretty sure it's him. I'm pretty sure the Undertaker is like he's supposed to be like this undead monster.
I believe it.
Yeah. Anyway, continue.
There's a scene in that where if you play through the campaign in SmackDown vs. Raw, if you save a girl from getting beat up by 3 other dudes and win, she walks you into the shower. And my mom walked in when that was happening, and she immediately ejected the PlayStation disc and told me to go to my room for 3 days.
Ejected the PlayStation disc and the PlayStation across the street.
Yeah, mind you, I had no idea this was in the game, so WWE ruined my gaming career for a while, and that's why I had a personal vendetta against wrestling. But I learned quite a bit.
Is it time for the Wikipedia page?
Alrighty, am I asking you first?
Yeah, I think you asked me.
Okay. Drum roll. Another word I can't pronounce. I'm gonna go ahead and re-roll. Alright.
Okay.
Joseph Peak.
Joseph Peak?
Yeah.
He was the creator of Gold Peak Tea, wasn't he? So what he did was he discovered that actually, he was born with piss that tasted good. So what he did is he would make tea and then he would pee into it. And actually, like, it had no adverse effects on anyone. Like, they tested it in a lab. And so, yeah, he created pee with tea in it. Yeah.
Close.
Am I actually?
No. Joseph Peak is a mountain peak in the southern section of the Gallatin Range of Yellowstone National Park.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, it's a mountain.
It is 10,420 feet high.
Oh, damn, big mountain.
And it is named for Chief Joseph, who I will go ahead and look real quick.
Okay.
Chief Joseph popularly known as Young Joseph, lived from March 3rd, 1840 to September 21st, 1904, was a leader of the Wallowa Band of Nez Perce,
Nez
a Native
Pierce?
American tribe in the interior of the Pacific Northwest region of the United States on the latter half of the 19th century.
That's cool. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. I think actually the real one is a little bit better. I can
Yes,
respect
for
that.
this one. Unlike the tale of Mr. Frisbee,
Mr.
which
Frisbee.
I don't think I would forget that one anytime soon.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead with yours?
Alrighty. So, I originally had two plans for this episode. The first one being Australophobia, or I believe the definition is it is a media outcry that started off in the mid to late 90s, and is basically how the fear of Australia resulted in pop culture icons such as Crocodile Dundee or the Mad Max series. Yeah, and it was also about the same time that Boomerang started showing up in toy stores.
Really?
Yep. Anyway,
Huh.
I'm gonna get research for that topic later on.
Okay, I'm down.
But then I decided to switch this week's topic to RPGs and their history, and then I lost all my tabs on
God
a.
damn it.
What? Okay, so I had a spot all laid out to record in my coaches or on my esports coach's old office, but it turns out that old office also has a miscommunication, I guess, and
Hmm?
somebody's yeah. So I started to walk into the room, and it turns out there's a campus ministries prayer service for the next 2 hours in
Oh
there.
gosh. Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, that room was double booked for absolutely no reason,
Oh
and
no.
all my tabs were on the office computer in there. So as I was
Dang.
driving here, I was listening to another podcast, which I actually don't remember which one it was, but they got talking about difficult video games,
Oh yeah. Okay.
and that was when, upon reading reviews of Celeste, I saw a term I had never seen before: massacre, which is
Okay.
my topic for this episode. So, massacre is a subgenre of video games.
A subgenre, I'm guessing, of roguelike?
Not just of roguelike, just it's a type of video game. Okay, so the name itself comes from a mixture of the words masochist and hardcore.
Okay.
This is a game. This is the type of game that Jacob you take to heart because you enjoy Dark Souls and Bloodborne.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the idea is it's the game that you die over and over and over again, and you hate it. You hate it. You just can't get it, but you also can't stop playing because you're a dirty little boy and you love the punishment.
Hey, don't call me out like that.
But yeah,
just because Daddy liked to get spanked, don't mean he. But
anyway,
okay. Anyway,
so
I do kind of actually like this as like a real term for roguelike, because I feel like roguelike is kind of beaten into the ground as like, oh yeah, it's a game like Rogue. And it's like, oh well, no one's ever played that game.
Well, see, there's a difference. There's a fine line between roguelikes and massacre games.
Okay.
Okay, so roguelikes are the typical roguelike game where there's like sometimes it's randomly procedurally worlds, you walk through it and then you accomplish tasks that tend to be pretty difficult.
Oh, okay.
Massacre games, on the other hand, they focus on unforgiving mechanics.
Okay.
That is their entire thing. Like, I'm sure you've heard of a word called bullet hell games.
Yeah.
Bullet hell games, which is a type of game where you basically can't see the screen because there's so much going on. It's a type of shooter whose main gameplay focus, according to GiantBomb.com, is
ooh, an in-text citation.
Yep, this is in-text citation. The term bullet hell refers to a subgenre of shooters whose main gameplay focus is dodging seemingly endless waves of multicolored bullets. So, games like Enter the Gungeon is a perfect example because there's the bosses in that game are just ridiculous, And some of the bosses in Undertale are also reminiscent of that. Like
Oh, like
so,
Sans? Oh my god,
the
Sans
Sans
is the
boss fight is
devil.
example of bullet hell. But yeah, the Massacre games are also slightly different from most platformers as well.
Okay.
Because there's the platformers like Mario and Mega Man. Do you see their platformers and some levels can be difficult, but rarely are they ever unforgiving unless you're playing the Mario Builder game, in
Oh
which case,
gosh, yeah. Oh, some of the levels people build on that game.
yeah, no,
Oh.
those people are the real masochists.
Well, what
They
the
like getting off and watching other people suffer.
well, what the problem is like to be able to publish that level, you have to beat it yourself.
Hmm.
So someone like think of how many like worse levels there are, and you just like you start out making it's just completely impossible, and you just tweak it step by step until you finish it, and then you move it a little bit forward. Like that would take so long. Like
Yeah.
that's like a nasty kink where you're just like, yep, I'm just gonna spend 14 hours making the hardest level because I know that other people like me are going to play it.
Hello, my name is Jordan Williams, and my kink is spending way too long trying to beat my own levels in video games.
Hi, Jordan.
I've been relapsing lately.
Masochists Anonymous.
Ugh. Okay. Um. So yeah. There's also a difference in, like I was saying before, masochore games and platformers. There are platformers, but then there's also, I believe they're called just platform hell games. I can't remember off the top of my head, but those are the games like the impossible
Yeah.
game where like
Okay.
it's like in a straight line. You have to get pixel perfect jumps, but at the same time, every time you mess up, it's completely your own fault. In these games, you are given the tools at your disposal to accomplish the task that you're trying to achieve. So, like in the
Mhm.
impossible game where you're jumping through levels trying to avoid spikes, you can, in your own right mind, be able to use that procedure and get through the game no problem. You just have to tap at the right
Makes sense.
times.
Not
But because,
unfair, just difficult.
yes, at the same time, they have it in such insane intervals and stuff like that you have to get it pixel perfect every time, which is where the masochism comes in. Because one little mistake and you don't have a save point. You're back to square one every time.
Hey, do you think that Osu is considered a masochore game?
Once you get past 4 stars, yes.
You would consider it so?
Yes.
Okay, I can
So
respect that.
there's a for those of you who don't know, Osu is another rhythm game where people can make beat maps, and you basically listen to a song and you click circles in time to the song. A lot of people think it's weird because there's a lot of Japanese songs with it. I personally
There's a
agree.
lot of Japanese what?
Japanese songs. Did I
Oh,
say something else?
a lot of Japanese what? Specifically in the background of the beat maps. There's a lot of Japanese what?
Oh, yeah, there's also some questionable art on the pages, which is why I turned the
Questionable.
background off. Anyway, the 4 star achievement for Osu was literally called Approaching Insanity.
I would believe that.
The first time you beat a 4 star song, you get an achievement titled Approaching Insanity. So that if that says anything about the game.
It's a cool game.
But another good example of this is I Want to Be the Boshi.
Oh man. Uh, I feel like that game starts to lean more toward not being so because it is unfair.
It is unfair. Like, I Want to Be the Boshi is a fan game, which is based on the original game, I Want to Be the Guy. I Want to Be the Guy came out in 2007, and the entire basis behind that game, it's a game made where you go through all these platforms. There's a bunch of things like invisible platforms you're supposed to jump on at a perfect time at a certain instance. Rooms full of spikes where some of the spikes aren't actually spikes, and very, very, very few save points within it. So, like, if you get to the boss and you don't beat the boss, you have to redo the 8 minutes up to the boss ahead of, or like once you die, you
Yeah.
have to restart. I Want to Be the Boshi is a game based off of the mechanics in I Want to Be the Guy, just with a little bit of a more of a modern pop culture twist to it, but also a lot more unforgiving difficulties. In I Want to Be the Boshi, there's 4 difficulties. Easy, spelled E-Z. Large quantities of save points. Bosses have half the health they're supposed to have, and other things that apply in game.
Just easier overall.
Yes. Totally average, which is it's got slightly more than average save points, and some other in-game mechanics. Hard on difficulty. The difficulty in which the game is meant to be played at, bullet limitations, and the same amount of save points and everything like that. And the final difficulty, oh shit, I didn't realize what this is called. Okay, so the final difficulty is literally called "You're Gonna Get."
Oh Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. Save points are positioned only at the beginning and end of each boss fight, and bosses have increased 200% health.
Okay.
So you basically get 2 save points per level, and bosses have more health than they're supposed to ever have.
Gross.
So people on that difficulty are the ones that you see, like I believe it was Forsen was playing that game, and he was getting he had 10,000 views at the time. He had been streaming for 2 hours, and he got to the point where he couldn't beat a video. So he stopped playing and on stream was watching tutorials on how to beat the level.
I don't even like watching people play the game, because it's like when you jump onto a block that has nothing, has no trap on it, right? There's nothing to show you that there should be a trap there, right? Like that's fine if it kills you when you touch it. Like that's okay. But when it's when it's like a certain percentage of it, it is just infuriating to watch anyone have to get through a level where 60% of the blocks are deadly, but you have to step on some of them. So you have to watch someone go through 400 deaths figuring out on a bridge which block you can step on.
That's one of the main attributes of Massacre games. Some of the attributes of Massacre games, people summed up the things that almost every Massacre game has, and that's reliance on the following traits: perfect timing, that's when you get that pixel perfect jumps that you have to weave between 2 fireballs that are going at 40 miles an hour.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
You have to deal around insta-death, and in most cases permadeath, where you die in one hit and you have to restart afterwards.
That makes sense.
Dirty tricks, which is the one that you're talking about, where if you jump on a block and the block just happens to be actually 2 feet to the right. And just unhelpful mechanics that don't tell you anything. Things like RNG, where you actually have to rely on luck in order to pass a certain part of the level.
I guess I don't know. When it comes to the unfairness, you call it dirty tricks? Mm-hmm. When it comes to dirty tricks, I feel like games like the Impossible game don't use those. There's never a spike that isn't a spike, or there's never a clean area where there's suddenly a spike. Same in Dark Souls. There's 1 or 2 places in Dark Souls where you'll be instant killed, but it's never the whole mechanic of the game. I don't know. It just I really struggle with that. The only time where a Dark Souls game has that instant kill for absolutely no good reason is in Bloodborne, where there's an area where you walk where a massive monster that you can't see right away at the start of the game will reach down and kill you. That is really the only area where that happens. I don't know. I guess. Oh, good.
Oh, to an extent, that's where some Massacre games actually get their debut. So there are some games. It doesn't say anything off the top of here, but it looks like I Want to Be the Guy has some deaths that are actually, because they're so ridiculous, they use them as a source of comedy.
I guess so.
So it's like those games where you take 2 steps and are instantly dead, and you just can't help but laugh out loud.
I mean, I guess that is where people. Oh shoot, what's his name from Rooster Teeth? Michael. That's where Michael gets his inspiration for that series of games where he gets so mad. What was that series called? Does he still do those?
It's called Rage Quit. Jacob.
Does he still do Rage Quit?
I don't actually know. I haven't seen a Rage Quit video in my queue lately.
I don't think I've watched a Rooster Teeth video in like I want to say like maybe 2 years. No, I did watch. They did a crossover with Bare Naked Ladies where they did like they did like some music videos with them. Those I did watch. So I guess I have seen them in the past year. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
So, in closing, in these kind of masochore games, there are the ones that are nearly impossible to beat. Games like I Want to Be the Boshi, which we've seen, the Impossible Game, which can get ridiculous, and in some cases, Dark Souls, where the mechanics are just so unforgiving, and if you can't get them, you might as well just go home and cry to your mama.
Oh my god, there are a couple bosses in Dark Souls that made me actually cry. It is just brutal sometimes.
Then there are the games that would like to be masochore games, like Battletoads kind of had that aspect for a while, but in the end, Battletoads was just a pretty difficult platformer, as with some Mario games. But somewhere in the middle there are a few masochore games that actually give you both the difficulty and the satisfaction. And I think the highlight of these games, like on the top of the leaderboard by far for masochore games, has got to be Celeste.
Okay.
Celeste has mastered this in its form. So, for those of you who don't know, Celeste is a game about a girl trying to climb a mountain. It's got a few mechanics. So basically, you can jump, you can double jump, and then once you double jump, you can't jump again until you can't use your double jump again until you hit the floor. And you can also climb and jump from wall to wall, kind of like Mario, but you can actually cling to the wall. Those are the only 3 mechanics that the game gives you. Every level has something new, where it's like in one level you get to a stage where you can go through these cosmic platforms that you could just like it looks like you're swimming and then you pop out the other side of the block, or the next level it's got these carpet things, like once you step on the carpet it turns black and you can't touch that square again or you die, or blocks that only move when you do use your double jump. It's new mechanic after new mechanic. Nothing is ever the same. It's a constant learning curve, but at the same time you always have the satisfaction. Each puzzle has the potential to be beaten in less than 30 seconds if you do it right. The thing that the game does for you is makes you figure it out for yourself. It gives you all the pieces of the puzzle in previous levels, and all you have to do is figure out how the combination applies and the level you're looking at right now. Coupled with a great storyline, which most masochore games don't have. I mean, you have Dark Souls, which is a pretty high production value, but most platformer masochore games are just focused on the difficult mechanics and nothing else.
I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm. In the case of Celeste, it couples a very, very touching storyline of a girl dealing with her own inner demons and helping others with that, or someone else on the mountain that she meets along the way.
I mean, it's an analogy for helping deal with your own mental health, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful story.
But yeah, it's got a great storyline. It's got great mechanics. I cried when I finished the game.
I can vouch for it. I was there.
And the fucking strawberries. The thing that makes me most angry about this game is that they lie to you. There's collectibles in the game called strawberries. And they tell you at the start of the game, strawberries are fucking hard to get. You don't have to get them. All they're really good for is bragging rights. Then you beat the game, and I'm not going to spoil the ending, but you beat the game, and they fucking lie to you. The strawberries matter. If you haven't played Celeste yet, please play it. It's an amazing game. It's a great example of masochore. And get the strawberries. Do it while you don't make the same mistakes I did.
Hey, kid. Don't end up like me, kid. You gotta get the strawberries. Morty,
yeah,
you gotta get the strawberry. I think that's
everything for masochore games.
All right. Would you also? I mean, like obviously, like this leans a little bit more toward the roguelike aspect, but like I think I would also put like Darkest Dungeon in there with masochore games, along with like Binding of Isaac.
Binding of Isaac is one, yes. That is a roguelike masochore. and I've never played Darkest Dungeon, but based on what the tears I've seen you shed over that
Oh my
game,
God.
I think it might fall into the masscore category
That
just because of the unforgiving aspect.
it just falls into the unforgiving is what it really is. I think there might be another like level of it where like some massacre games, especially in the area of like an RPG massacre or like a party based one, they want you to get attached to those characters so that when they get brutally murdered, you feel like shit. And it works so well in Darkest Dungeon because you need those characters so bad. And it's like, it's not only them like dying that's awful, it's them going insane along the way. So like you have to you have to invest so much in those characters because like being in a dungeon literally stresses them out. There's a stress meter, and like the more stressed they get, the longer you have to wait for them to come back. So like you have to invest time into them to put them into like a spa for a day to make sure that they like de-stress. Oh, it's just it's so brutal. It's such
not at all like
game.
You playing XCOM and throwing your privates to the chrysalids, you monster!
I don't fuck you.
Alright. So yeah, you want to hit me with a Wikipedia article?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Give me a drum roll. Ooh, snaps!
I don't have a table. I'm on a bed.
Alright, you ready?
Yeah, hit me.
Goes.
Wait, what?
Goes. Goes. Or goes.
Fuck me, Jacob. What am I supposed to do with this?
Do you want the full name of it? Because it should have a comma in it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Or is that hint enough?
Oh, it's got a comma in it.
So it should have a comma after it and then more to it. It's just goes or goes is all that it gives.
Oh, okay. So, Goez. He was a man in ancient history, Bible adjacent, but they don't really talk about him that much. He was the one who first started walking as a whole. He was the first one to invent walking. He just kept walking around the world because there was no water back then. That's how it works. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, he always walked the equator of the Earth, and at one point in his travels, every time he was walking, there was a man named Stope. And as he was walking, he'd have this brief conversation with Stope as they both aged over and over as the years passed. And Stope couldn't go anywhere, and he was jealous of Goez. But yeah, that's how we get stop and go for the stoplights.
Oh damn, that's so good. Shit, why are you better at this than me? Fuck. That was good. I loved that.
Also, yeah, my credentials for this show is I have a PhD in bullshit. So.
Do you want the real thing?
Yes, please. I'm curious.
Goes, or Goes, is a city in the Netherlands.
Oh!
Yeah,
dope.
In the province of Zeeland. Spelled Zeeland.
Is that like, wait, is that New Zealand adjacent? What?
It's just Zealand. It doesn't have an A in it, so I don't know if it really is. But yeah, it was founded in the 10th century.
Comes from 10th century? Wow.
On the edge of a creek called De Corte Goes, or the Short Goes, translated into English. Yeah.
That's the creek where Goez and Stope actually got married, and Goez finally stoped.
Oh, that's cute. That's very good. Full creds. All right. I think that might be it for us then.
Yeah, that's a wrap. I'm out of stuff to talk about.
All right. So some show notes. Thanks to the beautiful Jasmine Frank for making our cover art. You can find more.
Kiss up.
She's beautiful and my girlfriend. So yeah, go hit her up. Tell her how amazing she is. You can find her at jasminelene.com. That's her blog, or at Jasmine Frank on Instagram. Actually, it might be Jasmine Lene on Instagram too. Check it out. You can find me, Jacob, at A Swarm of Birds on Tumblr, or Moorow, Moorow on Twitter. Jordan, what's your stuff?
You can find me on Instagram at Crashing Marty.
How do you spell that?
Crashing and Marty is in McFly.
Dope. All right. So, you got questions, comments, suggestions, mean stuff
Want
to
to
say?
yell at us about what we fucked up?
want to make sure that we know how bad we are at our jobs? Email us at TWLTWpodcast@gmail.com. Also, follow us on Twitter at TWLTW Podcast. You can find all of our sources in the show notes. It'll be in a little Google Doc because that's like the best way to do it. And I haven't really seen anyone else use Google Docs as like a way to like give out information on podcasts before. Maybe that's just because I don't listen to enough podcasts, but which is a weird fucking thing for me to say.
Just make it feel like we're trailblazing. It'll be worth it.
Yeah. So we're the first ones. So yeah. Yeah. If
and
you have
nobody else
ideas,
could do it. We're copywriting that shit right now.
We're copywriting it right now. Anyone who touches it, no. Copyright. We will sue you into the ground. We're gonna make you have to change your name like the WWE.
WWWF, you mean?
The WWE.
Fuck!
Anyway, alright. Thank you for listening.
Bye!
I love you!